This episode of the Gold Mine Podcast is brought to you by Creating the Best Version of Me, a journal designed for ambitious Christian women who are seeking to increase their self-awareness, find purpose, and embark on the next level of their personal evolution journey. As entrepreneurs, career women, mothers, leaders, world changers, it is so important that we invest in our mindset and well-being, and journaling is one of the simple but powerful ways of doing that. This isn't your typical blank page journal. Besides the carefully curated morning and evening prompts, you'll also find a primary aim questionnaire that is designed to help you clarify your purpose, and a whole section of affirmations to help you retrain your thinking and speaking into positive patterns. This journal is easy to use, has plenty of room for writing and reflecting, and guaranteed to help you become the best version of yourself. You do not want to go through 2019 without this journal. Buy your copy on Amazon today. The link is in the show notes. You're listening to episode 47 of
The Gold Mine Podcast.
As women, we have to invest that time in getting to understand who we are.
Be ambitious, be bold, create the life of your dreams. This is the Gold Mine Podcast with your host, Adrienne Dion.
Hey you guys, thanks so much for joining me for another episode of the Gold Mine Podcast. I hope that you are having a beautiful Tuesday. And before we get into this good discussion about hustle or flow, I want to just invite you guys to the live recording. So something new that I've been doing the past couple weeks is recording the podcast live on Instagram, or if you don't have Instagram, you can join me on Zoom. And so I'm trying out Zoom. I may try out Periscope. I'll just have to see, get some feedback from you guys and see what's going to be the best option for me to do that. But if you are available on Tuesday mornings at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time or 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, please join me. I would love to have you guys interact and chime in on the discussion each week. And so as you'll see in this episode, I was able to take on somebody, one of the listeners, one of the attendees of the live recording, and actually get them into the conversation and hear their perspective. So it was super cool, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So every Tuesday at 8 o'clock or 11 o'clock if you're on the East Coast, please join me. It's so much fun. So now, without further ado, we'll get right into the show. Yesterday, I posted a thing on Instagram where I was asking everybody about their process for goal achievement. So is it kind of like, what do you do? Do you normally just, you kind of pray about it, meditate, manifest the things that you want, or do you get out there and hustle and grind? Hustle is a word that I think any entrepreneur, anybody that's in business, goal achievement, that whole world is, we all hear about hustle. You know, everybody's hustling, everybody's grinding. So I was just interested to see how many people take on that mindset when they're ready to like achieve a goal, or is it more so you kind of just let things come to you, you just attract? And the answers that I got were super interesting. But I think for the most part, everybody kind of said it just depends on the situation, and pretty much you need a little bit of both. If you're committed, if you're intentional with whatever you're doing, you're going to reach a goal. But I wanted to take it a little bit further. So the hard part is not, you know, how am I going to achieve this goal? And I always say, like, if you have a goal and you know exactly what you need to do to achieve that goal, the goal is not big enough. So you need to go back and make that goal bigger. With that being said, no matter how much effort you put in, no matter how committed you are or intentional you are with your process of achieving a goal, you're going to hit a block. If it's big enough, you're going to get to a point to where you're going to face a challenge. You're going to have an obstacle. You're going to get to a point where you don't know what to do. And not only that, a lot of times the success or the outcome, the thing that you want, will not be in your hands. So just for instance, say somebody who's looking for a job, you know, you're looking for a job, you continue to put in, applications, you may be going on the interviews, they seem like they're good, but it's just not like nothing's happening. Or you may want to get pregnant, you may want to have a baby, and you're going to the doctors, you're doing everything you know how to do, but it's not happening. There may be other goals that you're really pursuing, starting a business, you're putting in all the effort that you can. You may go, and I remember one girl was saying she started a business, and then not long after that somebody did a cease and desist, or whatever, however you say that. But anyway, I think like her name of her business that she had invested so much money into was very similar to another business, and they wanted her to like quit and like say, no, you have to change the name. But she had really spent a lot of money in branding. Like, it's like, I'm trying to do something good, and now all of this happens. What do I do next? So that's what I want to talk about today. And I guess more so coming from the point of when you're in a bad situation, you've done everything that you know how to do, and you're desperate for change. What do you do in that situation? And so my question is to you, do you hustle or do you flow? I've been in that situation a few times, and anytime I've gone to other people for advice, they either give me one or two answers. It's like, sis, you have to just continue to push through. You have to hustle for it. If you want it, you got to work hard. You got to keep going. And it's like, cool, I've done that. I know, I understand that. Or they tell me some stuff because I grew up in church. They'll be like, you know what? You've done everything you know how to do. Just wait on God. And it's like, sounds cute, but I'm in a situation right now, and I need change, So I want to first, let's look at the whole hustle thing. And I'm going to take out my notes because I wrote a couple of things down, and I don't want to just ramble. But yesterday when I asked a question about, do you hustle or do you kind of align and let things happen? One person said, the thought of hustling makes me feel anxious. And it's funny that she said that, because if you look at the word hustle and you think about what the meaning of the word hustle is, I want to read you a couple definitions. And it says, to obtain by forceful action or persuasion, busy movement or activity, a fraud or scandal. So when you think about going after something that you really want, hustling, even the definition behind it is not favorable. It's not something that you should want to do or to obtain something in that way. Now, trust me, I get it. I could see that your wording or your definition for hustle may not have been that. And that may not have been your intention, but you can't deny that whenever you get into hustle mode, your energy changes. And so you have to, I love words, and I love like the definitions of word. I think words have power. So you have to be very careful about the things that you do, the mindset that you're in, whenever you're trying to obtain or achieve a goal. So even with her saying, hustle, it makes me feel anxious, rightfully so, because the definition or the meaning of, hustle has a negative energy around it, just the definition. And so my problem with this type of approach, especially when you're in an undesirable situation, when you've already like been trying and you want to get things the right way, but you're at a point to where I can't do anything else. My problem with that type of approach is that it's going to do one of two things. It's going to bring more frustration, or it's going to bring more problems. And I'll explain a little bit what I mean by that. Is when you're hustling and when you're going to make things happen, sometimes you can be out of timing. You can be out of, out of line. We always talk about alignment and all that type of stuff. And when you're not aligned, I think timing is so important, because that means that if something is out of time, like you're not in alignment, a lot of bad things could happen. I was listening to Kathy Drayton, who is our first lady of the 30-day transformation team, our fitness program that I'm a part of. And yesterday she was talking about how she was riding by a house and she saw that they were like building the house from the ground up. So when she passed by, she saw that it was like just cinder blocks and there were, like the, beams for the roof, but it wasn't complete yet. The foundation was there, but the house wasn't complete. And so she was saying, wow, she was like, the thought that came through my head was, what if whoever owns that house was just like, yeah, I'm just going to move in, and she was like, what if, the construction workers were like, well, it's not finished yet, but come on, it's fine. You can come on and join, you can come on and live here. She was like, because the house is not ready, you're going to be exposed to so many things. You're going to be exposed to the elements because you moved in a little bit too fast. There won't be a door for protection. There won't be a roof to keep out the rain. There won't be anything to protect you. Yes, the house is yours and you're going to get it, but it's not quite ready yet. And that's the thing that I think about when I say that timing and trying to hustle when you're already in an undesirable situation, that type of thing, it may bring more problems and more frustration for you. I'm reading a new book called The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and he was talking about, our kind of like our purpose and how a lot of people focus on what their purpose is. And when they say that, they're talking about their outer purpose, what it is that they're here to do. But a lot of times they, look over the inner purpose, which is for all mankind to just live in the now. And so when you're so focused on what I need to do, you miss that inner purpose in living in the now. And so I think Oprah was saying about how she was interviewing him on her podcast, and she was talking about how when you're in situations and you're getting a lot of pushback for something that you want or for something that you're trying to achieve, it's like you're going against the grain, against the flow of what it needs to be. And when you're doing that, you're going to struggle. You're going to go through pain. And so a lot of times in these instances, when, you've done everything you know how to do, pushing through is going to expose you to a lot of struggle and a lot of pain. Now, like I said, our minds are powerful. And if you're committed, if you're intentional with whatever you're doing, you can get whatever it is that you want. Now, just because we can get whatever we want, that doesn't mean that it's always good for us. And so it's very important, I think, not to try to push yourself and hustle through a time like this, because it can expose you to so much other things. So if hustling is not the ideal thing to do, if we just looked at hustle and we can see the problems that type of approach could bring, let's look at the other advice that other people a lot of times give. And that is to okay, you should just, maybe the timing is not right. Maybe you should just wait. Maybe you should just wait on God to fix it. Maybe you should just be patient in this time. It's funny because, I grew up in church and I do believe in waiting patiently, but let's be serious. When you've invested your time and your money, you want change. You're looking for something to happen. You're looking for, I've just spent all this time doing this. And you're invested because either, okay, there are going to be consequences. There's a reason why you even had this goal in the first place. Or you don't want to just waste all your investment, all your effort that you put into something. And so when somebody tells you to just wait, if you're like me, I don't want to wait. Our whole culture is like, I want it immediately. We want immediate gratification. But everything in our lives now is set up in a way to where we're getting things as fast as we can. We want things as fast as we can. So when somebody gives you some advice of, okay, you just need to wait, I'm just going to be honest. And if you're honest with yourself, nobody wants to wait in that situation. You feel like, no, I need it now. So when I hear somebody say you need to allow God to do whatever it is that he wants to do, or, whatever is going to happen is going to happen, just let it flow. I'm always kind of like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that even mean right now? I think for a lot of people, including me at one point, I felt like waiting meant it was passive. And I think what happens when you take that approach of being passive in waiting, you're just waiting, you're sitting, you're hoping, you're praying, you're like letting things go. I think a lot of times what happens is that you say, okay, I'm just going to let it go. And then the more time passes and nothing happens, the doubt grows. You become angry about whatever the situation is. You feel like nothing's going to change. And so that is why I think a lot of people have a negative energy around when people say to wait. If you look at the word flow, it means to move in one direction or to move in a certain way, especially continuously or easily. One of my favorite definitions that I found was to continue to arrive or to be produced. So if I had to answer the question of what do I think you do in this situation, it would definitely, if it came to hustle or flow, I would definitely say flow. And I don't say flow in a way of what most people think of, just let go and let God or just be patient. I think that we have to change our definition of what flow means and what waiting on God means. And if I were to, the best definition I would have for is to actively wait. Actively wait is kind of like, well, you're kind of going against yourself in that term, but actively waiting, not just sitting and hoping and praying, but you need to be doing some things in this time too. So let's talk about what it is you should be doing. Shifting, and I have in my notes, shifting to the flow and waiting on God does not mean sitting around and hoping that things will change. It's not passively existing and having occasional doubt. Waiting means believing God will do what he promised and then acting with confidence. Waiting on God should result in internal rest and courageous action. So if you really believe somebody is going to do something, for example, I feel like the best way for me to explain it is if you think about somebody who's pregnant, right? The first time they learn that they're pregnant, like, okay, you're pregnant, you're going to have a baby. They may be sad or excited, but either way, they know that the baby is coming, so they begin to prepare for it. And I think that that is what you should do in a sense of when you're in a bad situation, you've done everything that you know how to do. You have to let go and let flow happen. And in doing that, what you need to do is prepare for the result that you want. So just like somebody that's pregnant would stop and say, okay, I know a baby's coming. Let me prepare. Let me go and buy baby clothes. Let me go and take prenatal, vitamins. Let me go and, prepare for the bedroom. Let me go and make sure that, the baby has clothes. That's the same way the approach that you have to take in this instance. The ball is out of your hands. The outcome of your success, you've done every single thing you know how to do. You have to make that switch and start to prepare for it. When you do that, no matter how you look at it, for the people that's like super religious and in church, you have to show God that you believe that he's going to do what he said he's going to do. And the best way, faith is not just believing, but it's also acting courageously. If you're looking for a job and you've put in all the applications you know to do, you've gone in the interviews, you've studied, you've done everything you know how to do, go out and prepare. Show God that you believe in him, that he's going to do it by buying you some new clothes for work, getting whatever you need to do to prepare for that job. Even if it's on the whole thing of you looking at flow as like the law of attraction. When you start to prepare for whatever it is that you're believing in and you start to do that, you're going to start attracting that by your actions. And so I think that it's super important for you to know that, bad things will happen, situations, you're going to come up with challenges, put forth in, your effort, be intentional, do everything that you know how to do. But once you get to that block to where, okay, I've done everything and nothing seems to be changing, you have to make the switch and start to prepare for whatever it is that you want. I've done it so much, and it's crazy in how courageous action And gratitude will change a situation so quickly. And I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't already experience it. I never want to get on here and talk to you guys or give you advice that I haven't taken for myself. But I think that a lot of times people experience this and they kind of feel it, but they don't understand what happened. You know, how many times have you been in a situation and it's just like, man, I really wanted that so bad, but then I just let it go, and then all of a sudden it just started happening. Like it just started coming. That happens because in some way or another, you let go, you stop trying to hustle and push through, and then you allow it to happen. You start to make some type of action towards whatever it is that you want. And that thing will start to attract, that thing will start to come. And so I think it's super important for you to know that in this instance, my perspective, when it's time for you to make a decision on what's my next best move, like what do I need to do? Should I hustle or should I flow? Always choose the flow, and not a very passive flow, but an active flow, preparing for whatever it is that you're wanting, because it's going to come, but it all depends on your energy. Do you believe that it's really going to happen? If you do, make and take courageous action. So now I want to open up the floor for anyone who has any feedback, who wants to add to the conversation. I want to hear from you. I think my bro is going to join the conversation. Tell me his outlook on things. Hey, David.
What's going on?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm at work.
Oh.
You know.
See, that's a fan. That's my bro. That's why you're my bro. Thank you for joining the conversation. So tell me, have you ever been in a situation to where done everything you know how to do, the ball's out of your hands, you don't know what to do? Like, has that ever happened to you? What did you do? Did you feel like you needed to hustle or flow?
I was in a space recently where I had to do both.
Okay.
I can speak from most recently when I was unemployed for the past 4 months and landing this job here.
Mm-hmm.
It was very hard for me to accept that I was unemployed for that long.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see me, by the way?
Yeah.
I can't see you.
Oh,
okay.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was unemployed for like 4 months.
Okay.
And through that time, that transitional period, that was very awkward for me, only because I've never been unemployed in my entire life.
Okay.
At all. So going through those transitions really scared me. It put me in a very uncomfortable space, especially when I'm so used to going on a job, getting the job, and then starting right away. I think the longest I've ever been unemployed is for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
To go 4 months.
Yeah.
Very, very challenging and difficult. So when I decided to just fall back, I put in a lot of work. I put in a lot of hustle in the first, let me take that back. I put a lot of flow in the first couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then that flow allowed me to really take into account what I did wrong.
Okay.
My last job, I was hustling too hard. So I wasn't used to being stagnant and being comfortable with the position I'm in currently. So I just had to learn how to pause, and through that pause is why I felt the most uncomfortable in my entire life.
Okay.
And then when I started to put that hustle in, and then what did you say earlier? I forgot. It was really good. Patient, actively being patient.
Yeah. So actively waiting. Yeah.
Actively waiting. Yes. So I did a lot of that, and I just sent out my resume every day. I just put out an application every day, but every time I did, I was like, God is going to come through for me.
Yeah.
God is going to come through for me.
Yeah.
But I was doing that based off the fact that, these are jobs that I actually wanted. Mm-hmm. And I realized that as a king, I am worthy of all things that come my way in my lifetime.
Right.
So I try to make sure that any position I applied for, it wouldn't be the same situations I've been in past jobs or past experiences.
Right.
So I just kept all of that in mind. And God definitely came through on this one.
Yeah.
It came at the perfect time. change and be effective in that change.
Yeah. So I love what your testimony was, and I just want to highlight a couple of things, like how you were saying at the end, you know, you because you actively waited, you continued to you kept putting in applications even though you weren't putting, you know, getting anything back or whatever. In that instance, you were taking courageous action, because I don't care what anybody says. If you continue to do something and you're not getting any results, that's hard to continue to keep putting in that work. Absolutely. Consistently, because I mean, you're just like, yo, this is a waste of my time. For most people, that's what they would say. So you were courageous in your action, but you also said it all happen in the right time. And I think that how you were saying in the beginning that the stagnation allowed you to reflect. Just imagine if you had gone on to the next job. You would have never been able to look and see what you were doing wrong. You would have never been able to take that moment to like look at yourself and see, how can I grow from this situation? You would have continued to be in the same hustle, and you would have never been able to grow from that instance. So just like how I said before, pushing through things sometimes create more problems and create more frustration than it does help. Having that time to reflect really allows you to grow from the situation, instead of just moving on to the next and possibly staying the same person that you were before this whole 4-month period of you not being able to work.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that taught me a huge lesson, and that is, don't work so hard to the point where you can no longer rely on God's provision. I always say, leave some room for error when it comes to the plan that you have for your life, and allow God to move through you. And when I say that, people look at it in the most negative way, and even though it can be taken negatively, it's just that God is wanting to test you and see how patient you can be. He wants to see where you're willing to do before you give birth to your greatness, to your ideas, to what He called you to do, to your purpose. And it's in that waiting period where you actually discover what you can do that you have never been able to do before. And that's really what I learned in those 4 months. I mean, those 4 months on deployment will humble you.
Yeah.
It humbled me to a point where it was like I was apologizing for things 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't.
Right.
So it put me in a space where it made me more appreciative of the people around me and support me and care for me.
Yeah.
It made me more appreciative of myself. It helped me develop self-worth. It helped me develop a sense of well-being. It helped me develop, a better standard of living. It helped me develop a sense of commitment to myself and to the God I serve. So, yeah, I was really feeling what you were saying about, being actively patient, hustle, and the flow.
Yeah.
It's definitely a balance that goes along with that.
Yeah, definitely. And so many people wrote in and was saying so many great things about just being able to use both. But I think a lot of times it's more so not, having the skill of, yes, I know how to flow. Yes, I know how to hustle. But when do I use either one? How do I know when to use one or the other, or when both apply? And so I think that it's super important that we have conversations like this, people being honest, because like I said, nobody wants to wait. Nobody wants to be in that period of like uncertainty, but you have to get uncomfortable with uncertainty if you want to grow. Like if you want to be the greatest person you can be, like you have to be able to be comfortable with uncertainty. And kind of just piggybacking off of what you said about that waiting period is so important. And I think that, I don't know, like not so much of God wants to see, but He wants you to see. Like God already know who He made us to be. You know what I'm saying? But He wants you to see who you are. He wants you to be able to see the mistakes that you've made. And during that period, God is just a good father. You know what I'm saying? Like any child, if you're a parent or you want to make sure your child develops and become the best that they can be. And you don't punish them or you don't take things from them because you're mad at them, but you want them to grow from the situation. You want them to learn from the experience. You want them to see who they can be without it, or, you know, whatever it is. So, yeah, you have to just, like you said, it's not a negative situation all the time. Although we can look at it, that's why I say you have to change your perspective about it. The definition of it, I think, is what we have to do, change. So thank you for sharing your testimony.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that concludes this episode of the Gold Mine Podcast, Hustle or Flow. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I really do encourage you to join me on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. If you're on the West Coast, and 11 a.m. if you're on the East Coast, so that you can join the discussion, you can join the conversation. I love to interact with you guys and to take questions if you have any. And I love it too, because even when we have questions and we talk about different discussions, you're able to help other people just by sharing your experiences or asking your questions, so that other people can also get clarification. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed, and leave some feedback. Go on, rate the show, leave a comment, send me a DM. Let me know what you think about it. I would love to hear from you, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday.